well. Standing by for some information here. Let's go ahead and listen into SpaceX commentary.
We will expect to see the clock pause at T-minus 40. And then again, we've got a couple of minutes. They can work through the issues. If we're able to clear them, we can still launch today. If it's something that we can't, we can always stand down, turn around, recycle, fly again tomorrow.
Again, that's really important. This is what terminal count is exactly for, is to be checking the vehicle, monitoring the vehicle systems as it makes its way down to T0. And again, this gives us the ability to catch anything and be able to hold, as Dan has been saying, and recycle if we need to, or pause so that we can work through those issues and see if it's something that we need to stand down for. And as Dan mentioned, we will be holding at T-minus 40 seconds, so in about 20 seconds from now.
Yeah, so we'll hold there, and they'll work through these final checkouts on, sounds like just one of those Raptors on the first stage on Super Heavy, which, as you said, we're reflying it for the first time. 29 of those 33 engines have already been used in a launch, one of which has already launched
Twice, and we'll go for
and
its
is getting ready for its third
time.
Right. And you just heard our flight director for the day, Joe Sliker. He just shared that we are going to hold at this T-minus 40 second mark. Keep an eye on one of those Raptor engines on booster.
Yeah, it looks like they're holding for just one of those engines. That's interesting. It must be one of the ones that's involved in their planned experiment during the landing maneuver, because I would imagine having one engine unavailable is not enough to normally stop them from initiating the final.
And if you're just now jumping in, we are holding still at T-minus 40 seconds. Watching one engine, waiting for temperatures to kind of get to a zone that we want them to on one of the engines on the booster, on the Super Heavy booster, getting ready for its second ever flight. We'll just continue to hold. Again, we can hang out here for several minutes. We held for a while on the first attempt last time and then cleared it, and then we triggered a different issue on the ground side.
But again, this is exactly what it's for. This gives us the best chances at success.
And the clock is rolling.
There we go.
All right.
And we do have a resumption of the clock. Now we're less than 30 seconds in real time. To hear the call of the flight director is go for launch. Standing by. We're at hold again.
Damn you.
Following the go-ahead for a go for launch, a hold was called once again. You see the clock has pushed back to T-minus 41 seconds.
T-minus 41?
Yeah, luckily for us, they did not trigger the deluge system during that countdown, or else we would be looking at an abort.
Yeah, that's a really important point there, Zach, since, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it takes at least a day, if not potentially up to 48 hours to make sure that the deluge system is back up to its full levels, right, before it can make another launch attempt if it's triggered.
Yeah, for sure. I guess it's a bit of a question whether or not part of the abort sequence also aborts the deluge system, so it may potentially be pre-programmed to just do the full thing that it's expected to do instead of stopping as soon as the abort is triggered. So that would be the big question on, how much water is actually pushed through that system, how long it takes to recycle. So a lot of questions there. As far as the booster or the actual vehicle goes, I don't know if they've specifically said their capability for holding. But given that the prop load time has basically been cut in half from 90 minutes down to 45, I would imagine that they at least have 45 minutes of hold time available.
Well, they did mention they have several minutes, which didn't sound quite as optimistic as 40, though that would be nice for them to have that much margin. We are hearing that there is a tower-related ground side issue that they are currently looking into and figuring out if this is something that can be worked through now or if they're going to have to stand down for today's launch opportunity. Very latest from SpaceX as they continue to hold at the T-minus 40-second mark.
Yeah, that's interesting. It must be the QD arm, if I had to guess, because I would imagine that would be one of the only things that would stop them, considering they're not planning to catch the booster. So, interesting call out there.
Yeah, I mean that sounds very reasonable. Just like I said, given although even if the tower is not going to be used for a catch, are there still receivers on the tower that they would still have in the loop to monitor the booster, sort of like what they did for some of the earlier flights where they weren't intending to catch it, but we're going through some of the internal and external motions? Or do you think that that's not in the loop for something like this?
If they, for some reason, still plan to simulate a booster catch, yeah, I could see that being a thing. I'm not sure how critical the rest of the tower is for actually capturing telemetry or anything like that during flight. So we're actually communicating with the vehicle. That's a question we no longer know the answer to. They have
and Zach. I'm gonna. Sorry to cut you off. It sounds like they're potentially coming up to a decision point here. So let's go ahead and listen into SpaceX commentary, and we'll hop back in just a moment.
All right, so we are getting to a resolution. We're going to reset everything.
Let's go.
Not entirely clear what reset everything means in this case.
Dog.
They're currently
Reset
still
I
holding.
think it means
T-minus
Control
40.
Alt Delete and then reboot.
All right, so we're going to see the clock. It is now rolling.
Here we go.
We essentially.
And Zach, to your point, they noted there was an issue with the quick disconnect, and note that there may be another issue. Looks like they're going. The water dealer system is activated. Less than 10 seconds. Engine ignition. And we have movement. Liftoff of Starship on Flight 9.
Let's get it.
And for just the 9th time, the full Starship integrated stack has cleared the tower. About 40 seconds into flight. All 333 Raptor engines have ignited at this point. Vehicle's about to pass through max Q, the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure. Confirmation of max Q. About a minute and a half to hot state or super heavy MECO, most engines cut off, and then a hot staging seconds afterwards. Looks like good on camera or onboard views. Clear picture, nice view of the Texas coastline. Mexico as well. This is the first flight of a reused Super Heavy booster with 29 of those 33 Raptor engines flying once again. Still appears to be a good initial burn. Coming up on about 30 seconds before Super Heavy Nico. Most engines cut off. And we've got staging in real time. And we've got staging in real time. Separation. And we've got staging in real time. Separation. SpaceX feed coming in on a slight delay, so we'll see these events replicated beyond our tracking cameras here in Starbase, thanks to Lab Padre. Coming up on 3 minutes in flight. And you can see the ship upper stage just off the edge of the Super Heavy. Boost back burn still in play. Just about 15 seconds away from the end of the boost back burn in real time. Again, for those who may just be joining in for the first time in this broadcast, the Super Heavy booster will not be attempted to be caught by the tower. Coming up at about T plus 6 minutes and 19 seconds will be the Super Heavy landing burn start. Seeing some good views from the ship upper stage S-35. Continuing to climb at about 111 kilometers in altitude. We're a little less than 2 minutes to the start of the Super Heavy landing burn here.
Catch them rockets, boys. Shouts to Minnie.
Seeing some of the excess liquid oxygen being dumped. This is intentional on the booster stage. You can still see the hot staging ring. Actually, that's that little dot just beneath the booster in this tracking cam view.
Uh-oh. Bit of a fire in the aft section. That is no bueno.
Yeah, I can see a little bit of irregularity.
That could be the nitrogen purge system, though.
Yeah, they haven't mentioned anything about that, so hopefully that's intentional.
Got to land that big-ass booster on a ship.
Coming up on 5.5 minutes into flight.
It is burning blue, I'll note.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, the sun angle isn't helping with getting good visibility on that.
Gonna blow up, man. I'm telling you.
The glow that you're seeing in the aft section of the Super Heavy booster, that is not the burn starting just yet. That is just the glow of the heat off of the shielding there. Coming up on the start of the landing burn in real time. There you can see it looked like the start of the, yep, there's the.
Yep, we got fire. What's going on here?
It looks like they lost the booster
Oh, damn. It blew up.
during the start of the landing burn,
Yep.
which was
It
not
gone.
intention. That was not the intention. Unclear if that was actually the landing burn itself.
That thing went boom.
So while they were not intending to recover the booster, they also were not intending to lose it during the landing burn. So that'll be something that SpaceX will be looking at. Coming up now on about 7 minutes, 15 seconds into the flight of the ship upper stage. We'll see if they get through this point. The last two flights, they were unable to get through the conclusion, the intended conclusion of the upper stage engine burn. Now, a nominal ship engine cutoff is expected at about T plus 8 minutes and 56 seconds. So just a little more than a minute from now.
Yeah, you know, they got to fail fast. So whatever reason they couldn't land this booster, they might figure that shit out. 19,000 kilometers.
Less than a minute remaining in this burn.
And going.
More fire appearing on the right side. And the RVAC nozzle is getting pretty hot.
I did just see some lateral motion, it looked like, in the ship. Like it was yawing a bit. It's hard to tell for sure.
Yeah, interesting that they don't have the previously used ship orientation. Oh, there it goes. All right, there
Yeah,
go
look at that glow.
The Raptors, or the Raptor vacuum engines have shut down. Sea level should be shutting down right about now. Confirmation of ship engine cutoff by SpaceX. And this is already farther than they were able to get with flights 7 and 8. So
Hey, it's already a win for SpaceX.
really important milestone for the Starship program to get to this point. Now,
all those little pieces, are we breaking up?
Is that motion normal?
A bit difficult to tell.
Oh, is that all ice? Yeah, it's ice.
it did seem a little bit more
Whoa, look at that. Frost.
than I would have expected. Kind of hard to gauge the orientation here without the Earth view.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on right now. Oh, there it is. Oh, hold up. Going the wrong direction. Wait, are we? The hell? We're moving upward?
Now about 10 and a half minutes into the flight, assuming all continues to go as SpaceX intends, we're coming up on the payload deployment demonstration, which would be the first time that Starship would deploy any kind of payload. It's got 8 dummy Starlinks on board. You can see actually the door that is right there in the middle of the ship that is being reflected on by the sun from this angle.
Oh, they're just fucking playing around with it with the CO2 burns and move it around. All that gas is that CO2.
So as we continue to watch these upper stage views, Stephen, I'll bring you back in first. Just your initial thoughts on the first time a Block 2 version of the ship upper stage has made it to this point in the flight, and what you're expecting with the next couple milestones here with the payload deployment and the in-space relight demonstration.
Well, certainly they got farther than they did on flight 7 or 8.
Yes. Yes, sir. 7 and 8, we did really well. And here we are. This is Nerd Vision 101. SpaceX. Starship. Look at all that ice just fucking fly off the side of the Starship. That's crazy.
Over the Bahamas now, out of the Atlantic Ocean, but not sure what to make of this motion, if it's part of a normal process to maybe thermally stabilize the vehicle, like a barbecue roll, like we see a lot of rockets do to make sure all sides of the vehicle are roughly at equal temperatures. That may be what we're seeing here, but we'll see in the next few minutes if SpaceX moves forward with their next test, which is the Starlink replica or Starlink mock-up deploy test.
All right, we'll go grab a beer. Be right back.
Zach, I'll go to you next. Your thoughts on where we are in the mission, and Steven's thoughts about the orientation of the vehicle that we've seen so far.
Yeah, very interesting. I'm kind of going back and looking at footage again. I was just looking at re-looking at the shutdown there. Very, very interesting differences from past flights. I mean, overall, it seems like everything is fine. I mean, they do have RCS thrusters, so they theoretically should be able to reorient the ship if there is any like odd things going on with that. I guess if they make it to payload deployment, that will be a big sign that everything is going as expected. But I mean, so far everything obviously looks much better than the last 2 flights, so that is fantastic news. I'm sure they're really happy that they made it past there. I do think that there were still some issues going on there leading up to SECO, and it honestly seemed like it held on by a thread there. So, yeah, very interesting. I'm hoping they give more details about that later.
Hey, shouts to SR-71
Yeah, certainly
Blackbird.
hoping they flesh out some of those details, as we're now just about 4 minutes away from the payload deployment demonstration. So we'll be watching for the opening of the door as they get ready for that milestone.
That was my favorite plane growing up. You know what I mean? That thing just looked crazy. It was crazy.
And as they commentators are just noting, they've only opened the payload bay door
some sort of
once during
like copycat plane that they had. That was the shit. Oh, is JCV here? Shit, I think I have him blocked. Oh, no, there he is. Shouts to JC fucking V. Cheers.
Nice up close. And I wonder if this is a camera on one of the actual Starlink simulators, because if so, that is going to be pretty amazing if we actually get to see that from the view of the
camera on
of the Starlink when it deploys. This may actually be the first one, the lowest one on the rack, which means it'll be looking back at the others.
Well, SpaceX certainly loves to make its renders a reality. So, we've seen the the animation of a deployment of Starlink satellites, the actual version 3s. So that'd be pretty nifty if that actually were to come to pass with one of these simulator Starlink satellites. Coming up on just a couple minutes before that milestone comes up, said to happen in about T plus 18 minutes and 26 seconds. So we should see the payload bay door opening here in the next probably about a minute or so in preparation for that.
Yeah, and just looking back again, I think that camera was actually on the wall of the payload section, even though it looked like it was on one of the Starlinks. I don't think it is. So that would be quite the feat, honestly, to pull that off, because you would need some sort of system communication from the dummy Starlinks back to the ship. So I'm not necessarily expecting to see that, although it would be cool.
Yeah, and as captured by Lab Padre through its great 24/7 live cameras on YouTube, we did get to see views of these simulator Starlinks being loaded on, and they seem pretty basic. So while it would be nice to see them have some kind of camera capability to capture it floating in real time, I would also be shocked to see that happen. Did hear comments that they were unable to open the door all the way.
What happened to Joe Walsh? He shut down his stream, huh?
They started the opening sequence, but it wasn't able to open all the way, so they're going to close it, and it sounds like try again. Now, the next milestone in this mission is the in-space relight demo of one of the Raptors on the ship upper stage. So unclear exactly how long they have to fiddle with this, how much margin they have with this part of the mission before they move on ahead. And actually, we just heard the call that they are unable to deploy those Starlink simulators. They have made the call that they are going to be moving on.
What? Oh, that's it, folks.
Taking a live look right now at mission control. Not in Starbase, Texas. This is Hawthorne, California.
Well, that sucks. I'll tell you what.
Looking back inside the payload bay here, as again, for those who may just be joining us now with the joint live coverage between Lab Padre and Spaceflight Now. Starship was able to successfully launch from Pad A down at Starbase, Texas. The mission got through successful hot staging, and the booster, as it began to orient itself ahead of the start of the landing burn, did have what appeared to be an earlier issue. Unclear exactly if that was as the landing burn was starting or if it was just shortly before the landing burn, but right around that point in the timeline. And so initially the goal was to have the landing burn take place, to shut down those engines, do sort of a staggered experiment where they would have two of the three center engines lit with one out, and then they would use one of the middle ring engines to demonstrate what would happen if one of the center three engines were to have an issue unintentionally. But as the case turned out, they were unable to completely go through that experiment. And then moving on, we did see a good shutdown of the ship's engines, both the sea level and vacuum Raptors. Those had a successful staggered shutdown. Did appear that there was a bit more movement than may have been initially anticipated, but it looks like things got sorted out, and so they had entered into a good coast phase with Ship 35 at this point in time. And most recently, as we just saw them attempt, was trying to get the door open in order to.
Looks like they're freaking failed. Nah. They got farther with the Starship, but they did not deploy satellites on cam, or maybe they aborted that. And looks like they were just doing some hot dogging out there, making the ship go left to right, right to left. You know, all them good things like that, boy. I tell you what, cheer. You know what I mean?